Lando Norris and McLaren won Formula One's Dutch Grand Prix, easily catching and passing Red Bull's Max Verstappen after losing the lead on the opening lap. This was only the beginning, as in the end Verstappen would be over 20 seconds behind Norris in P2. Yes! You heard that right, more than 20 seconds. Things are getting worse by the week for Red Bull, and it's safe to say Max Verstappen was not happy after the race. But it all started pretty well for the Dutchman at his home race, as poor first laps have been a regular source of frustration for Norris this season, to the point that he said he was not performing at world champion level throughout the first half of the season. On Thursday at the Dutch Grand Prix, he mentioned improved race starts and early laps as critical to kickstarting his driver's title challenge. The pressure had been on Norris to preserve the lead into the first corner, having been unable to do so from pole at both Barcelona and Hungary. But the McLaren driver ended up gathering too much wheel spin into the first corner and lost ground to Verstappen. Verstappen passed Norris well before turn 1, and McLaren teammate Oscar Piastri dropped from 3rd to 4th after a similarly slow start. But it didn't matter, since by lap 16 of 72, Norris was on Verstappen's RB20. 2 laps later, he overtook Verstappen into turn 1, where the Red Bull driver offered no challenge. This was the moment for Verstappen to undercut Norris and try a different strategy, but they stayed out. Therefore, Norris extended his lead subsequently, so much so that even when Red Bull pitted Verstappen 1 lap early, the Norris at a circuit with a heavy overcut, Norris comfortably regained the lead. Surely this decision will be something Verstappen will point out during the race debrief. After this, Norris went unchallenged and crossed the finish line 22.8 seconds ahead of Verstappen, who had won all 3 previous editions of the Dutch Grand Prix since its reintroduction to the schedule. Norris received the fastest lap bonus point on the final lap, which added to his delight. Norris's second F1 Grand Prix win, along with the bonus point, reduces Verstappen's championship lead from 78 to 70 points with 9 race weekends remaining in 2024. And after the race, as expected, Norris was happy. Very happy. It feels amazing. Once again, I wouldn't say a perfect race because of lap 1 again, but after that it was beautiful, said Norris. The pace was very strong, the car was unbelievable, and I could get comfortable, push and pass Max. I think from quite early on actually, from pretty much lap 5, 6, 7. I expected Max to start pushing and get a bit of a gap, and he never did. So from that point, I knew we're in with a good fight, but he seemed to just keep dropping off, and my pace was getting better. Verstappen, however, reacted composed and showed a little bit of his disappointment. You always try to do better, and we had a good start. We tried everything we could today, but throughout the race it was quite clear that we are not quick enough, so I tried to be second today. The other McLaren driver, Oscar Piastri, wasn't quite on it this weekend and couldn't retain his starting position and slid down to 4th. Piastri's progress had stalled behind Leclerc, and he sat just beyond DRS range, prompting McLaren to inquire about the tyre's condition. "Not amazing, but I'll make it to the end," he said. However, the indicators are extremely promising for McLaren, as Norris swept to victory in overwhelming fashion, delivering Verstappen his first Dutch Grand Prix defeat. Leclerc stood firm as 3rd to finish the podium. Due to his win, Norris managed to cut the gap to Verstappen by 8 points in the World Championship. The Dutchman still has a commanding lead of 70 points with 9 Grand Prix weekends remaining in the season, but McLaren fired a warning shot with that win. Therefore, Norris was delighted on the team radio. "Simply lovely, huh? Well done. Thank you. Incredible job. The car was incredible. Let's keep pushing," Norris said over the team radio. Thus, Max Verstappen had to settle for 2nd place, for the first time, in his home race at Circuit Zandvoort. He simply could not keep up with the pace of Lando Norris with his Red Bull racing car, and therefore resigned himself to 2nd place. "We were confident we could make a good start, and fortunately, we did. After that, I just drove my own race," concluded the 3-time world champion. It seems like Verstappen knew he was doomed, and with a 70 points advantage and 9 races to go, Red Bull must be scared to lose both championships. Ever since Norris's win in Miami, Red Bull have been on the back foot, and Verstappen is noticing this as well. This resulted in some firm words for his team from the 3-time champion. Whereas Red Bull Racing was dominant at the start of the season, in recent times the team has often been beaten by McLaren and others. So, when a journalist asks a question about whether the roles have reversed, Lando Norris and Max Verstappen disagree. At the start of the season, things often seemed close until qualifying started. Verstappen then often grabbed pole position. Meanwhile, this is no longer the case. McLaren and also Mercedes have often been faster than Red Bull recently. When Norris and Verstappen were asked if the roles between Red Bull and McLaren have reversed, Norris replied, "No, I just put in a good lap when I needed to, but I tried to put in the best possible lap at any point in qualifying. I had nothing left for qualifying." But as both of them, Verstappen and Oscar Piastri, said, this is a difficult day and they didn't do their best laps. Norris continued, "I felt like I drove a really strong lap, so today I felt like I did what I needed to do for qualifying, and for whatever reason Red Bull, struggled a bit more with their car. But it's because I had something behind." Verstappen then disagreed with Norris. "I must have seen a different weekend then. I don't know. I never felt it was close yesterday, so I just tried to do as well as I could. Maybe I am trying to keep believing in something that is not possible for us, but I am pushing to the limit, just like everyone else." Verstappen Jr. also isn't the only one noticing this, as Jos Verstappen revealed some big concerns about Red Bull's future direction and its ability to compete with McLaren in upcoming races. When? Just before the race, dropping another bombshell on the Red Bull team. Max's father says his son is complaining about the balance of the RB20 and that the three-time champion is not satisfied right now. The 26-year-old qualified second for the Dutch Grand Prix, his home race, but was more than 0.3 of a second behind pole-sitter Lando Norris. "The fact that he is second is a positive," Jos told Viaplay. "But when you're second at 3.5 of a second, I do worry a little bit about the upcoming races. McLaren, are going like a rocket and we are struggling. They're Red Bull doing everything they can, but it's not coming out, to be honest." The former F1 driver says he predicted the slide, noting that the team's updates were insufficient to resist the attacks from McLaren and now Mercedes. "It just looked strong at the beginning of the season, but suddenly we lost everything. The updates were there in my eyes, but they didn't do much, and it showed," the 52-year-old said. "It's annoying, and I think they have to pull out all the stops to make it better." Max is complaining about the balance. He said that again after qualifying at Zandvoort. "The balance is not there, there is under and oversteer, and that also makes it difficult to push. You just don't know what's going to happen, and it shows. I spoke to Max and he's not satisfied, you can tell, but I can also see that about him. The question will be if they are able to turn things around." And with the news coming out this week that Red Bull reverted to older parts on their cars this weekend, it's quite shocking to see them finishing so far behind. If things continue like this, Verstappen will have to finish every race in P2 behind Lando to clinch the title by a couple of points, or even worse, lose it by a couple of points. What do you think? Is the Verstappen bombshell on Red Bull justified? And will they be able to regain their good form? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.